All right, today we are going to talk about loops. And loops are basically a way to repetitively execute code. There are different types of loops, not just in Java, but in any programming language. We have the traditional for loop, and typically we use these loops when we know how many times we're going to run the loop and when we need to track an index. Enhanced loops, on the other hand, are pretty similar, but it simplifies iteration over arrays and collections when you don't need to track the index. While loops are loops that repeat as long as a condition remains true, and it's best when the number of iterations is unknown. Do-while loops execute the loop at least once before checking the condition. That's the difference between that and a while loop. So a while loop may never execute, while a do-while loop executes at least once. And forEach is a method which is used on collections using lambda expressions or method references to iterate through a collection. And I kind of added it here to the different kinds of loops because it's a method that, as a programmer, we're going to be using very often. All right, now let's look at some different exercises to illustrate the different kinds of loops. So let's start with the traditional for loop to calculate and print the sum of all even numbers between 1 and 100 inclusive. So it's a sum. So let's initialize a variable equals 0. So the sum, we'll start off with the sum equals 0. And for int I equals, so it's going to be sum of even numbers between 1 and 100. So we'll start with 1, and then we're going to loop until I is less than or equal to 100, because you have to include 100. And we're going to increment I. And it says sum of all even numbers between 1 and 100. So an easy way to do this is you can increment by 2, start this off at 0, and then we're just gonna loop through even numbers. So sum plus equals I. So we're adding up the even numbers. And then we're just going to print it out. All right. So we'll print this out. Let's run this, see what we get. Okay. So we get a number. All right. So that's using a traditional for loop because you have an index that you can track. Now let's use an enhanced for loop. So given an array of integers, write a Java program using an enhanced for loop to find and print the largest number in the array. Okay, so we have an array of numbers. So let's write a for loop. So let's set an interval equal to largest number. We'll just set it to 0 for now. And then we'll write a for loop for int number in numbers. So it's taken this collection, it's taking this array and looping through it. And each element is this number. So it's going to loop through 1, 4, 2, and so forth. And then we're just going to say if number greater than largest number, then we'll set the largest number equal to that new number. Okay, so that's all we need. And then let's print the number. Okay, we'll comment this out since we don't need it anymore. All right, let's run this. Okay, so it printed out our largest number, 876, which is what we want. So, the difference between an enhanced for loop, some may call this a for each, is that a traditional for loop tracks an index, while an enhanced for loop does not. Now let's move on to a while loop. So write a Java program that uses a while loop to repeatedly divide a number by 2 until the value becomes less than or equal to 1. Okay. So we'll set another variable, int divided number equals starting number. Then we'll just do a while. So while this condition is true, execute. So the condition is that this divided number has to be less than or equal to 1. So while divided number is greater than 1. So as long as the divided number is greater than 1, the loop has to continue executing. So divided number so we're just gonna keep dividing this number by 2 until it becomes less than or equal to 1. So I'm just gonna do a sysout so that we can watch the process. All right. So let's execute this. Okay. So the loop executed. So it kept dividing this number. Took a few iterations, but it did it. Now let's do this. Now let's do the same thing, but we'll use a while loop. We'll use a do while loop. So we'll comment out this while loop, and what we're going to do is we're going to take the same, actually, yeah, we're just going to take the same numbers. You'll use these same numbers. We use these same numbers and repeat this using a do while loop. Okay, so it's gonna do so it's gonna run this. It'll execute this while the divided number is greater than one. So let's see what happens. So it does the same thing. Okay, so it does the same thing. So let's just say we set this starting number equal to zero. Okay, and we clearly know that zero is not greater than one. So let's do this. So let's run this and see this do while loop, it executed once. So the do while loop executes at least once. That's the difference between a do while loop and a while loop, other than just syntax. Okay, so let's comment this out as well. And let's do number 5, the for each method. So for each, I just added this. Like I could have done this lecture without this method, but I kind of feel like this method is used so often that many of us typically use it to substitute for actually writing a for loop. And for one reason, it's cleaner. It just looks cleaner. It looks cleaner, it looks a little cooler. But let's explore this method. So given a list string containing names, write a Java program that uses the for each method to print only the names whose length is greater than 5. Okay, so let's do this thing, all right? So so we'll just write with the for each. So names for each name. Then let's some brackets. So if name dot length, since it's a string, and what did it say? Greater than 5. So the length has to be greater than 5. So not 5, but greater than 5. And you know what? Actually, let's see if we can put this on one line. Yeah. So if it's one line, and let's see. I wonder what happens if we remove these brackets. Okay, we're kind of pushing it. Yeah, let's just do it like this. Okay, now let's run this. So it should print only the names whose length is greater than 5. So this one will print, this one will print, this one probably not. Let's just run this. All right. So printed names, these names are all greater than 5 letters. Okay. So that's loops in a nutshell. I think we're done here. Until next time, ABC ya.